You're watching Mental Health with Marcie, and I'm Marcie. First of all, happy Pride Month to any and all members of the LGBTQ plus community. This is our month. It's exciting. We've got fun, sparkly rainbow unicorns. Mostly I just wanted to look at the sparkly thing. It's got a little rainbow tail too. Anyway, yes, so happy Pride Month, but on less happy news, let's talk about internalized homophobia. And if you are a part of the LGBTQ plus community, you may have experienced this, you may currently experience it. And so if you don't know what that is, it's really about having that kind of homophobia or anti-LGBTQ plus sentiments, kind of the discrimination, disapproving, kind of can be hateful attitude towards yourself, and then about your sexuality and sexual orientation. And so as opposed to somebody else being homophobic towards you, saying any kind of different, slurs or just other kinds of discriminatory behavior. It's really doing that within your own self and having those thoughts that you are something other, you're not good enough, you are, you're just not having those really, really awful thoughts about yourself. And sorry, I laugh just because I feel like we have to, right? Like that's like the only way to get through it. And then you can see my beautiful rainbow light had to show up for Pride Month. But anyway, I want to talk a little bit about internalized homophobia and my experiences with it. And definitely everyone has their own experiences. And also, I'm sure this goes without saying, but not everyone part of the LGBTQ plus community is or has experienced internalized homophobia. Honestly, I hope no one does. Like, I just hope it's just a me problem and no one else experiences it. That would be my hope and my goal. I don't want anyone in the past to have experienced it. I don't want anyone in the future to experience it. But unfortunately, it's just part of society. Really, it's very unfortunate. But anyway, let's talk a little bit about kind of how internalized homophobia comes to be, how it manifests, really what we can do to combat it. So first of all, honestly, it's really society and those societal expectations and norms that really perpetuate internalized homophobia. And so, for example, when there are laws and movements of people who are against who you are and think that you don't exist or that what you're doing is wrong, just being yourself, those types of things can really start to seep in into your internal, monologue in your head and your personal thoughts, even if you might not rationally think those thoughts, they just start to seep in. And then also, especially if there's any personal relationships where you have people in your life who are homophobic, who are close to you, who you care a lot about them and what they think, but they don't approve of who you are for whatever reason. Don't know what the reason would be, because you're just being you. But anyway, it's those types of thoughts start to seep in, and honestly, at least in my experience, I won't speak for everyone, but that's one of the reasons why it took me so long to come out to everyone, just because it's that idea that there's something wrong with who I am, and it took me so long to really even find who I am and that it was even an option to be literally just the person that I am. And it's a lot sad that society is what makes us, take so long that we have to find ourselves. And it's like, it doesn't take other people, straight people, that long to find themselves. They just know. But anyway, I digress. I'm preaching to the choir here. But yeah, it's just that societal expectation and pressure that you're not doing things correctly. And that's what really starts to manifest in those thoughts, where you start to think, well, okay, maybe I am not doing things right. Maybe this is something to be ashamed of. That's, for me personally, what I've struggled with the most, is that feeling the need to hide it. And even those like split second thoughts of where maybe you don't hide it, but you think about it and you're like, should I say this? That to me is, at least for now, what's really the crux of my internalized homophobia, is really about thinking, how will other people think about this, and how will they think about me and view me? And I really fucking hate it. Just like, to be frank, I really hate it, and I think it's stupid, but it still exists. Even if you are, or me personally, openly out, it's very, very difficult at times to fully be yourself and be out. For example, I have definitely at times like done a little pause in my head when I say the word girlfriend, and I think about it and I'm like, well, should I say this? Should I not say this? Who am I talking to? Are they going to think differently about me? And that's not something that I ever had to think of before when I, was dating men. And it's like, why do I have to think about those things? But it's that continued and persistent internalized homophobia that is really just seeping in from society and making me question, is this okay to say? And I will say, just as like a blanket caveat, in all situations, it doesn't make sense to, unfortunately, it doesn't make sense to be your whole self in all situations, which is so fucking terrible. But I totally understand, to certain people, it's just not safe to be your whole self, and it's just, you just can't, and that's on them, and that has nothing to do with you and the validity of your queer experience. I just wanted to note that just not being able to be 100% out in all situations has nothing to do with you and your experience. It has to do with society being a bitch. That's what I'm just going to say. I'm just going to call society a bitch. Because it is. And the people in it. Not all of the people. Some of the people. But anyway. So yeah, it's unfortunate that we have, me specifically, and then a lot of other members of the LGBTQ plus community have a lot of internalized homophobia. And another example is like being more hesitant about like holding hands with a same-sex partner, or even just talking at work and thinking about like, when you say, well, how was your weekend? It's like, do you say I was like hanging out with my girlfriend? Do you just avoid that and say you're hanging out with a friend? And again, everyone has their safe spaces or non-safe spaces. And so where it makes sense to be out and be their whole selves and not. But just for me, I just hate that there's this thought. There's this thought that I have to think about, am I going to be me? Is there something wrong with that? Like, why do I have that shame? Why do I have that pause? And it really is that, for me personally anyway, that internalized homophobia that over all of these years, I'm still kind of coming out of, or trying to anyway. That's why it took me so long to come out at all and to really express who I am and feel comfortable doing so. But I know, I hope, I don't know, I hope that one day I won't feel it. There won't be that pause. There will be that level of confidence and feeling like I just like I can just be myself, and I don't have to have that level of shame and fear about what will people think of me and everything. So really, if anything, I just hope for future generations of the LGBTQ plus community that everyone just has it a little bit better off, because I'm sure it's obvious, I have it so much better off than a lot of members of the LGBTQ plus community that came before me. Like, I am so privileged to be able to come out at all, and have really the amount of support that I've had thus far. And so I just only hope that it continues to be easier and easier and easier for future generations, and that my hope is that the future children, of the next generation are really going to be able to not have that internalized homophobia in the first place. That's, again, maybe I'm being optimistic. In one generation, 2 generations, 3 generations is not enough, but I don't want people to have to overcome the internalized homophobia, that they have to work against it. But I just wish it wasn't, I wish it wasn't there. But my last point around what can we do about it? I mean, we can get a different freaking society, but not really, not so easily. You just move somewhere, I guess. But yeah. So one of the things we can do is just continue to be accepting and inclusive to all of the other people around us. And that can be in all of our interactions, asking someone their pronouns if you're not sure, and just being respectful of that, and just being very inclusive if anyone does, express feelings of coming out to you, or just talking about what they're doing, and they have a same-sex partner or whatever. Just like, it's not a big deal. They're just people being themselves. Like, mind blown. But yes, the more we can destigmatize just being who we are as part of the LGBTQ plus community, the better, in my opinion, of working towards the idea that we don't have to fight against internalized homophobia. So that's one thing. The other thing is just a lot of practice. And again, I won't say that in all circumstances it makes sense to fully come out to everyone in your life. But for me personally, just making that conscious effort that when I have that pause, yes, I might have that pause about saying girlfriend, but I do say it, and not hiding it. To me, that's progress. For me personally, is just making sure that in the situations that, yes, I might still have some of that internalized homophobia within me, but I am making myself known. And the more and more I say it, and the more I am comfortable talking about my sexuality, the more I feel that internalized homophobia lessen a little bit. And so again, this is still going to be, unfortunately, what I envision as a lifelong journey, but hopefully it will get better. And again, if we can spread all kinds of pride and inclusivity in society, that will definitely help. And yeah, for me personally, just trying to make sure I am loving myself, being gentle with myself, being kind to myself, but really just whenever possible, just trying to embrace who I am, and not being afraid of what people might think of me, or just or any kind of shame or anything like that. So I am a work in progress. Society is clearly a work in progress, but hopefully if you are part of the LGBTQ plus community, this has been helpful. Or if you're not, you've learned a little bit of what it is like having internalized homophobia. So in any case, happy Pride Month again, but thank you so much for watching and stay well, my friends.